Merry Christmas, deep divers. I hope you all are cozy and ready for some serious, mind-blowing insights. Because today we're unwrapping the real Christmas story. And trust me, this isn't your grandma's nativity scene. Before we get started, make sure you've hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of our future deep dives. Now for this exploration, we're diving deep into a fascinating book called The Real Christmas Story, The Truth About the Events. It challenges a lot of what we think we know about this holiday and takes us on a journey through history, biblical analysis, and some seriously intriguing symbolism. Get ready for a Christmas deep dive that'll leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the holiday. Let's start by tackling something that always throws me off: the timeline. You know, we picture December 25th, the year 4 BC, the whole shebang. But this book throws a wrench in that whole picture right from the very beginning, with the story of Zechariah and Elizabeth.
Absolutely. The book challenges the traditional date and year we associate with Christmas by meticulously dissecting the biblical narrative and comparing it with historical records. Take Zechariah, for instance. He was a priest. And the book specifically mentions he belonged to the 8th course of priests serving in the temple in Jerusalem.
Okay, hold on a second. 8th course. I'm already lost. What does that even mean?
This is where it gets interesting. Back then, priests were divided into 24 courses, each taking turns serving in the temple for a week at a time. Zechariah being part of the 8th course is a crucial detail because it allows us to pinpoint the timing of certain events. The book uses this information, along with other historical and biblical markers, to reconstruct a more accurate timeline.
So it's like a historical puzzle.
Yeah.
And this 8th course business is a key piece.
Precisely. And this meticulous attention to detail is what sets this book apart. It doesn't just tell you a story, it provides the evidence and reasoning behind its conclusions.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this deep dive is going to blow our minds. So Zechariah is doing his priestly duties when an angel named Gabriel appears. Talk about a divine intervention. Gabriel tells Zechariah that he and his wife Elizabeth, who is considered too old to have children, will have a son. This son, of course, would become John the Baptist.
Now, even the name Gabriel is significant. It means God is my strength, foreshadowing the pivotal role John the Baptist would play in paving the way for Jesus.
Right. John the Baptist is like the opening acts for the main event. But the surprises don't stop there. Next, Gabriel visits Mary in Nazareth and delivers the news that will change the world forever. She's going to have a son, and she's to name him Jesus, which means Yahweh saves.
And Nazareth itself is a fascinating detail. The book refers to it as God's special place, hinting at the town's spiritual significance in the grand scheme of things.
It's like every name and place in this story has layers of meaning. It's making me look at the Christmas story in a whole new light. So we've got 2 miraculous pregnancies underway. But the real drama begins when Caesar Augustus decides to hold a census. Now, I have to admit, whenever I read about a census in the Bible, my eyes tend to glaze over.
I understand it seems like a mundane detail, but this census was no ordinary headcount. It required people to return to their ancestral hometowns, which is why Joseph, despite living in Nazareth with Mary, had to journey to Bethlehem. And this journey would fulfill the prophecy that the Messiah would be born in the city of David.
So this seemingly boring census sets the stage for the most important birth in history. It's like a domino effect. And Caesar Augustus unknowingly kicked it all off.
And the book dives even deeper, debunking a common misconception that this census occurred during the governorship of Quirinius, which would have been years later. Through meticulous historical analysis, it suggests that Quirinius held a different role related to registration and taxation before becoming governor, making Luke's account historically accurate.
Okay, hold on. I'm getting some serious historical whiplash here. This is way more complex than I ever imagined.
Yeah.
So the census forces Mary and Joseph to travel to Bethlehem. But there's no room at the inn. Cue the stable scene, right?
No, that's a fast. The Greek word often translated as inn actually refers to a guest room in a private home.
So instead of some crowded roadside inn, we're talking about a family home. That changes the whole atmosphere, doesn't it? It feels more intimate, more human.
Exactly. And the book delves into the typical layout of homes in Bethlehem at the time, suggesting the stable might have been a lower-level space within the house, perhaps used for animals during colder months.
This is blowing my mind. We're talking about a completely different setting for Jesus' birth. But what about the date? Was Jesus really born on December 25th? Because this book seems to have a different idea.
Yes. This book debunks that assumption quite convincingly by analyzing the timing of John the Baptist's conception, the priestly courses, and even the destruction of the temple. The book arrives at a different date altogether, September 29th, 2 BC.
September. That's not even close to December. What's the significance of September 29?
Well, it aligns with the Jewish Feast of Trumpets, also known as the Feast of Michael and All Angels.
Okay, now we're talking. So not only is the traditional date wrong, but the real date has this deep connection to a Jewish feast. Tell me more about this Feast of Trumpets. What's it all about?
This feast was a time of celebration marked by the blowing of trumpets, and it held a special significance in Jewish tradition. It was a day of remembrance, a call to repentance, and a foreshadowing of the coming Messiah.
So Jesus being born on this day adds another layer of meaning to the story.
Absolutely. It suggests a deliberate connection between Jesus' birth and this prophetic feast, emphasizing his role as the fulfillment of Jewish hopes and expectations.
Deep divers. I don't know about you, but my head is spinning with all these new insights. We've debunked the December 25th myth. So there's another question I've always had. Why wasn't Jesus born on December 25th in the first place? And what does the Bible actually say about celebrating Christmas?
The book dives into the fascinating history of Christmas, tracing its roots back to pagan festivals like Saturnalia and Brumalia. These celebrations were deeply embedded in Roman culture, and they continued even after the rise of Christianity. Over time, they gradually transformed into what we now know as Christmas.
So Christmas, as we know it, is a blend of Christian and pagan traditions. That's definitely not something they teach in Sunday school.
Indeed. And early Christians actually opposed the celebration of Christmas, viewing it as a compromise with paganism. The book sheds light on the evolution of the holiday, revealing the historical and cultural forces that shaped its observance over the centuries.
Wow, this deep dive is already packed with surprises. We've tackled the timeline and debunked some major myths, but now I'm curious about something else. The deeper meaning behind all these events. What about the symbolism embedded within the Christmas story? It feels like there's a whole other layer to uncover.
You're absolutely right. The book goes beyond the surface narrative and explores the rich symbolism woven throughout the nativity story. And it starts with the names themselves. We've already talked about the significance of Jesus and Gabriel, but even seemingly minor characters like Anna and Simeon hold symbolic weight.
Okay. Remind me who Anna and Simeon are again.
They're two individuals who encounter Jesus in the temple shortly after his birth. Anna, whose name means grace and favor, and Simeon, whose name means to hear intelligently and obey, represent the importance of receiving God's message with an open heart and responding with obedience.
It's like every name has a purpose, a message woven into the story. What about their encounter with Jesus? What's the symbolic significance there?
The recognition of Jesus as the Messiah, even as a baby, signifies the fulfillment of prophecy and the dawning of a new era. Anna's lifelong dedication to prayer and Simeon's patient waiting for the consolation of Israel highlight the faithful anticipation that preceded Jesus' arrival.
It's amazing how these seemingly minor characters add depth and meaning to the story. And what about the gifts the Magi bring? Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Those have always felt symbolic. But I could never quite put my finger on why.
The book breaks down the symbolism of each gift, connecting them to Jesus' threefold role as prophet, priest, and king. Gold, representing royalty, points towards Jesus as the King of Kings. Frankincense, used in temple worship, signifies his priestly role as mediator between God and humanity. And myrrh, an embalming oil, foreshadows his sacrificial death and ultimate victory over death.
Wow, it's like a foreshadowing of Jesus' entire life and ministry. Okay, deep divers, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our Christmas deep dive. We've tackled the timeline, debunked myths, and started to uncover the rich symbolism woven into the story. But we're just getting started. In the next part, we'll delve even deeper into the mysteries of the Christmas story, exploring those often overlooked genealogies, the flight to Egypt, and the enduring enigma of the Star of Bethlehem. Stay tuned and get ready to have your minds blown even further.
Welcome back, deep divers. Let's pick up right where we left off, exploring the hidden depths of the Christmas story. We've already uncovered a revised timeline and a treasure trove of symbolism, but there's another fascinating layer we need to unpack, those often dreaded genealogies.
Oh, the genealogies.
Yeah.
I usually skip over those endless lists of begats in the Bible. They always seem like a snooze fest to me. But this book makes a case for why they're actually worth our attention.
Yes. The book frames the genealogies as intricate puzzles, each name a piece that fits into a larger, meaningful picture. And what's fascinating is that we have two genealogies of Jesus, one in Matthew and one in Luke.
Wait, two different genealogies. Isn't that a contradiction?
Not at all.
Right.
They serve different purposes. Matthew traces Jesus' lineage through Joseph, highlighting his legal right to the throne of David. fulfilling the prophecy that the Messiah would be a descendant of David.
So it's all about establishing Jesus' royal credentials.
Yeah.
It's his claim to be the king of the Jews.
Precisely. On the other hand, Luke traces Jesus' lineage through Mary, emphasizing his humanity and connection to all people.
So one genealogy focuses on Jesus' kingly lineage.
Yeah.
The other on his human lineage. That makes so much more sense now.
And there's another intriguing detail the book points out in Matthew's genealogy. He includes 4 women: Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, and Bathsheba.
Okay, now that's interesting. Why single out those specific women? They weren't exactly known for their saintly behavior, were they?
That's precisely the point. Tamar, Rahab, and Bathsheba were all involved in scandals or situations considered taboo in their time. Ruth was a Moabite, a
Right.
foreigner, and therefore considered an outsider.
So their inclusion in Jesus' genealogy is a bit unexpected, to say the least.
Exactly. The book suggests that Matthew deliberately included these women to emphasize that Jesus came to redeem all people, regardless of their past or social standing. It's a message of radical inclusivity and forgiveness.
Wow, I never saw it that way before. It completely changes how I view those women and their place in the story. But this book doesn't just stop at the names themselves. It goes on to explore the numerical patterns embedded within the genealogies. Things like the significance of numbers like 7, 14, and 42.
Those numbers are more than just random figures. They hold symbolic weight. 7, for example, represents divine perfection. 14, a combination of 6, representing man, and 7, symbolizes salvation and deliverance.
Okay, now my head is really starting to spin. So even the numbers in the genealogies tell a story.
Absolutely. And this meticulous attention to detail underscores a key takeaway from the book. Every element of the biblical narrative, even the seemingly mundane ones, carries deeper meaning.
It's like a secret code embedded within the text. We've been looking at the Christmas story our whole lives, but this book is like hitting a decoder ring for the first time.
Precisely. And speaking of decoding hidden meanings, let's move on to another fascinating episode often overlooked in the traditional Christmas narrative, the flight to Egypt.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
After Jesus is born, an angel warns Joseph in a dream to flee to Egypt because King Herod is searching for the baby to kill him. It's a pretty dramatic escape story.
Yes, but it's more than just a plot point. The book emphasizes the symbolic significance of Egypt in this story.
Okay. How so? Isn't Egypt mostly associated with slavery and oppression?
It is, and that's precisely why it's so interesting. Think back to the Israelites and their enslavement in Egypt. It was a time of darkness and captivity, but God delivered them through Moses, leading them to freedom in the Promised Land.
Right, the Exodus story. It's a powerful image of liberation. But how does that connect to Jesus and his family fleeing to Egypt?
Their flight to Egypt, while prompted by a very real threat,
Right.
also carries symbolic weight. Egypt, once a place of bondage, becomes a place of refuge for Jesus.
It's like a reversal of the Exodus story. Instead of fleeing from Egypt, they're fleeing to Egypt for safety.
Exactly. And the book suggests that this episode foreshadows a greater liberation to come, Jesus' ultimate victory over sin and death, offering spiritual freedom to all who believe in him.
So even in this moment of danger and uncertainty, there's a deeper message of hope and redemption.
Precisely. And that message continues to unfold as the family returns from Egypt after Herod's death. Instead of going back to Bethlehem, they settle in Nazareth.
Right. And this move fulfills the prophecy that Jesus would be called a Nazarene. But I've always been a little confused about that title. What does it actually mean?
That's a great question, and one that has puzzled scholars for centuries. One interpretation connects it to the word Nazarite, which refers to individuals who took vows of separation and dedication to God. However, as the book points out, Jesus didn't strictly follow the requirements of a Nazarite vow.
So if it's not about being a Nazarite, what's the significance of the Nazarene title?
The book explores the etymology of the word Nazareth, suggesting it might be related to the Hebrew word netzer, meaning branch or shoot.
A branch, like
Okay.
a new growth,
And
new beginning.
Exactly. And this connection to a branch aligns beautifully with prophecies in the Old Testament, like the one in Isaiah where the Messiah is described as a branch or shoot from the stump of Jesse, referring to King David's lineage.
It's all starting to connect. The Nazarene prophecy, the connection to King David, the birth in Bethlehem, it all points towards Jesus as the fulfillment of ancient promises.
And the book goes even further, suggesting that Nazareth might also relate to the Hebrew word nazir, meaning separated or consecrated.
So the name Nazarene is more than just a geographical designation. It speaks to Jesus' unique role, his separation and dedication to fulfilling God's will.
Precisely. It encapsulates his entire mission, a mission that would ultimately lead him to the cross, a sacrifice that would offer redemption and a path to salvation for all humanity.
This deep dive is seriously making me rethink everything I thought I knew about the Christmas story. But there's still one big mystery we haven't cracked yet. That star. What was the Star of Bethlehem? And how did it lead the Magi to Jesus?
Ah, the star. It's perhaps the most enduring enigma of the Christmas story.
Right, I've heard all sorts of theories. A comet, a supernova, a planetary conjunction. But none of them seem to quite fit the description in the Bible.
The book delves into the various astronomical explanations that have been proposed over the centuries, but it ultimately concludes that none of them fully account for the star's unique behavior.
So if it wasn't a natural phenomenon, what was it?
The book suggests that the star was a supernatural manifestation, a sign from God specifically orchestrated to herald the arrival of his son.
So not just a random cosmic event, but a deliberate act of God.
Precisely. And the book draws a parallel between the Star of Bethlehem and the glory of the Lord, a concept that appears throughout the Old Testament, often described as a brilliant light or fire that represents God's presence.
So the star was a visible manifestation of God's glory, shining down on the birthplace of his son.
It's a reminder that the Christmas story is not just a heartwarming tale of a baby born in a manger. It's a cosmic event, a divine intervention that changed the course of history. And that brings us to the heart of the matter, the deeper meaning of Christmas and its implications for us today.
Okay, deep divers.
Yeah.
We've gone from debunking myths to uncovering hidden symbolism to exploring the supernatural. Now, I'm ready for the grand finale. What does it all mean? How does knowing the real Christmas story change how we think about this holiday?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We spent this entire deep dive peeling back the layers of the Christmas story, uncovering historical details, symbolic meanings, and even supernatural elements. But what does it all add up to? How does this knowledge change the way we experience Christmas?
I'm honestly feeling a bit overwhelmed, like my brain is overflowing with Christmas insights, but I'm also feeling a sense of awe, like I'm seeing this familiar story with fresh eyes.
That's the beauty of a deep dive. It challenges us to move beyond the surface, to question our assumptions, and to discover the hidden depths of something we thought we already knew. And when it comes to Christmas, that deeper understanding can be truly transformative.
So it's not just about learning trivia or impressing our friends with obscure biblical facts.
Not at all. It's about allowing this knowledge to reshape our understanding of the holiday and its significance in our lives, for instance.
Right.
We've seen how the real Christmas story challenges the traditional December 25th date and its connections to pagan celebrations.
Right. It's like the book is saying, hey, let's shift our focus away from the commercialized, Santa-centric version of Christmas and get back to the heart of the matter.
Exactly. It's about remembering the true meaning of Christmas, the incarnation of God in human form, the arrival of Jesus, the one who would ultimately save humanity from sin and death.
It's like we've been so caught up in the wrapping paper and the bows that we've forgotten the precious gift inside.
And that gift, the gift of Jesus, is not something we can simply unwrap and enjoy for a day. It's a gift that demands a response, a transformation of our hearts and minds.
So knowing the real Christmas story isn't just about acquiring knowledge. It's about allowing that knowledge to shape our lives, to inspire us to live in a way that reflects the values Jesus embodied.
Precisely. Humility, compassion, service, sacrifice. These are the themes that run throughout the Christmas story, from the humble circumstances of Jesus' birth to the ultimate sacrifice he would make on the cross.
It's a powerful reminder that Christmas is not just about receiving gifts, but about giving of ourselves.
And it's about sharing that gift with others, extending the love and grace we've received through Jesus to those around us.
That's a challenge, especially in a world that often feels so focused on self-interest and division, but it's a challenge that resonates deeply, especially during the Christmas season.
As we celebrate the birth of Jesus, let's remember that he came not just to be adored, but to be followed, to show us a better way to live, to offer us a path to reconciliation with God and with one another.
That's a powerful message, and one that I think we all need to hear, especially now. This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about, and I hope it's done the same for you, our amazing deep divers.
Yep.
So as we wrap up this Christmas exploration, I want to leave you with this question. Knowing what you now know about the real Christmas story, how does it change the way you think about the meaning of this season? That's something to ponder as we head into the holidays. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And from all of us here at The Deep Dive, we wish you a very Merry Christmas.